Top of the morning to you. This is probably a Coleman 457 or 460 gas plant. They actually call it the handy gas plant. It's basically a giant Coleman stove. These things are pretty good size, as you can see next to my foot, which is the size 12. That baby's pretty big. The advertising claims this thing has almost 20,000 BTU and can run for 10 hours. I don't know how big that tank is. It looks like it's at least 2 gallon. The difference between the 457 and 460, I think, is the burner size. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't have a tape measure right off the bat. I think this is the bigger one. I'm not 100% sure. It's a basic Coleman type device. You just fill it up, and there's a valve there, and one there, and the generator tube. Actually, this one's kind of tiny bit unusual because it has it doesn't have a pump per se. It does, but it's totally standalone. It looks like a kind of a basketball pump, and it actually has a pressure gauge. I filled this one up, flushed it out a little bit, filled it up. Thought we'd fire it up this morning, see how it works. These things can be a little fussy, but not bad. They're like a lot of Coleman stuff. Stuff's pretty indestructible. I don't know when this one was built. So how about we fill it up? I don't have the pump, so I'm going to cheat and use a air compressor. It's got this little valve here. Instructions say to turn this big valve 1/4 of a turn. It's interesting, it must be pretty important because there's actually a little pin underneath that locks that until you force it to come open. You open that main valve, and then you open the side valve. If I had to guess, that main valve probably has a spring and stuff underneath it, like a lot of Coleman stuff, and after the unit gets heated up, it changes the way that the fuel is drawn in from the bottom. The instructions I have keep talking about gasoline, but gasoline back when this thing was built was a little bit different than gasoline today. We have a lot of additives today. As you can see, these things light and start burning clean pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and punch that valve down and open it up further. And I'm going to shoot a little more air into this baby. Boy, you can really feel the heat rolling off of that monster. Could use a good cleaning. There's actually kind of an interesting little port with a shutter underneath that assembly. it kind of flaps back and forth. Well, you're not going to see my hand. It kind of pivots back and forth. I don't know if it's a, I think it's an air valve type assembly. It looks like it might be a tiny bit bent. Somebody might have bent it down as opposed to twisting it side to side. It might be froze. I bet that thing would boil a couple gallons of water for the lickety split. We could have a heck of a crawfish boil with that baby. There are some other versions of the handy plant, and some of them actually have different names. And there are some different versions of the same thing, but it has, I believe they have brackets for. There was a top part called the heat drum that went over there to turn the thing into a kind of more of a high-powered space heater, probably so you didn't get burned. It's very similar to the little bitty, I think that's the 502 Coleman. They made a little single burner stove about the size of your hand, and it had a little heat drum type of assembly. It's basically an upside down coffee can, for lack of a better word. Not on this one, it's more like an upside down 5-gallon bucket. But probably just to keep you from getting burned. This one's kind of surging a little bit. It needs a good cleaning. I bet this thing has sat for a number of years and never went anywhere. Amazingly enough, the fuel that's in there right now is the fuel I found it with. It's kind of a testament to how really tough these things are. I suppose as long as they're sealed up well. There's really nothing to damage. This one still has the pressure gauge intact. I've seen a few of them that the pressure gauge is usually broke. I don't know if they get kicked or kids break them or whatever. That fill valve has a little check valve in it actually. I can feel the heat from that thing over here, and we're at least 5 feet away, and there's no wind. There's really not a lot of moving parts on that thing, and interestingly enough, all the parts are pretty well built. You could probably, with a little penetrating oil, take that thing apart relatively easy and clean it. It would be probably a fun project to sandblast. This one's missing the decal. Actually, this is this is another one. This one's in a little bit better shape. It has the decal more intact, and it has the heat drum on top. It's almost the same. Actually, that one's a little bit smaller than the other one, so that makes that one a 460, I believe. Yeah. Here you can see the heat drum is really just a piece of tin with a couple notches in it. Some bent pieces just to sit on top. Yeah, looks like that one's running out of juice. shut her off here. Open that valve up a little bit. Bleed the air off while it cools down. Okie dokie. Well, that's all there is to see. It's nothing spectacular there. Just kind of interesting. So that one's actually a 547. That other one I just showed you was a excuse me. I'm getting all mixed up this morning. There are two different ones. Okie dokie. Have a good day. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to leave it. Thanks a lot.